my new video. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today's video is going to be us installing a tile backsplash in our kitchens. And I wanted to take you guys with us as we go to Home Depot and as we get all the items. This is all the spot that we have for the backsplash on our pantry. And then right there. So this is kind of what it looks like before. And then we are headed to Home Depot. And this is the tile backsplash that we are doing. We had a Subway tile in our old house, but I really wanted some marble. This is a Carrera marble. This is from Home Depot. If you guys want to take a screenshot of that, if that's something that you like. But we have 3 packs. We need to get a lot more, obviously, but I really love how this marble looks up against everything else. So that's what we're gonna go do. Okay, so the item that we are looking for is a small tile wet saw. And everything that I talk about, I will have linked down below in the description box so you guys can look up the item yourself. So, found it right here. It was kind of hard to find. This is the Jeffrey Court marble. So I'm gonna buy a few of these guys right here. Got 17 packs of these. And then this is the saw that Brad got. 7-inch wet tile saw by this brand. Next item we are getting is this Acryl Pro ceramic tile adhesive, and this says just spread and set. It says Pearson ceramic, marble, and stone tile. It's about $13 for this. And Brad also got this. This is the Poly Blend non-sanded ceramic tile caulk. There's that. I'm probably saying that wrong. We also got this all-purpose sponge, which is crucial. We also got this guy right here. This is a red rubber grout float, so that's crucial when putting on the grout. And then we got this notch wall trowel. You'll see, we smooth it over. This is the next item we're getting. It's this Poly Blend non-sounded grout, and we got 2 of these in case one's not enough. So that's the next item. The next thing we're getting is kind of like the edge piece.
It's called Schluter.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's fun.
So it's these really tall, look how long they are, but we're obviously gonna have to cut them. But they have different kinds, so it's a rounded step kind, a T-shaped, U-shaped, and rounded kind, L-shaped.
I like that one, clean.
Oh, a T-shaped.
Yeah, so this will go, explain how it's gonna be.
This goes along the edge of the tiles where it's not against the wall.
A couple items that I did not include in the haul here at Home Depot were spacers. We already had them, a caulk gun that we borrowed from a friend, and tile grout sealer spray and some cheesecloth, all items that we already had access to. So I bought a little succulent plant that was like $2, but the total came up to $391. That saw was $120, and then the tile obviously is what cost the most. So now we're gonna head home and we're gonna start the project. First things first, you need to prep your kitchen, so take out all of the outlets from the wall, all of the screws, all the outlets, all of that stuff. And then you need to tape off the counters and everything so you do not get your grout or anything like that on your counters. We just use some trash bags and some tape. And then here we are using that trim here for the edge, and Brad is measuring to see how tall and long he wants to make it. And here he is using the wet saw that we got. And he is going to cut it. It was actually pretty loud, but thankfully not too loud that it did not disturb any of our neighbors. And then our friend Brandon was here. He is actually a contractor and he helped us so much. So a lot of these tips are from him. He had a laser so we could see how straight it was all going to be to make sure everything was even and perfectly at the same height. So thanks to him. And then he started putting on the trim, and he just used one of these trowels right here and just put on a thin layer, as you're going to see. He has like a lot of tips he helped us with, so you guys will see that in a second. And he put a thin layer of the adhesive on the wall right there just to make sure to put the trim on. And then he started placing, after he put that trim on, he just started placing the tiles on. Obviously, you're going to use spacers, as you can see right here. We also asked Brandon if you should put the adhesive on the tile first or the wall first, and he said on smaller spots, like you can see here, like by the outlet, it's actually easier to just put the adhesive straight onto the tile. It makes it a lot easier to spread, but on larger parts, you can just put the adhesive on the entire back of the wall. You put a spacer underneath each tile as well as in between to make sure they are all evenly spaced. and obviously so that they are even and straight and all of that. And then Brad is cutting the tile right here, which is tricky because you do need to cut different pieces according to the outlets and all of that. So here it is coming along. They are just measuring everything, and it actually goes pretty quickly when you're doing the straight pieces like this and you're not having to cut around corners or outlets. And then they did this behind the stove. They used one of those trim pieces as well, just to make sure that it went all the way straight behind, so it was even. So they nailed that in there, screwed that in, sorry. And then here was the tricky part. You can see how many cuts they had to make around the outlets. And this was important just because you want to make sure that the sizing looks perfect. So you can see how it's all laid out. It's kind of spaced differently. So you got to do whatever design that you want to do. And we wanted to do it kind of like half whole piece, half piece, whole piece. So here's a little bit more up close. You can see we left some space up at the top. We are just going to use the caulk at the top to kind of seal that as well, so we don't have to cut like a small piece of tile. So here it is again as it's all coming together, and you can see how we decided to do the little design. So there's a piece right there that we cut to make it look like it was an entire piece, if that makes any sense. And then we didn't have enough spacers, so as it sat for a long time, we were able to take the spacers out and just reuse them, and that worked out really well with us. So if you don't have enough spacers, that's something that you can do. Just make sure it sits there long enough, I guess. Okay, continuing on, they are just cranking it out here, as you can see. I also wanted to show you guys how Brad is spreading the adhesive in a thin layer across the wall on the bigger parts, so it's easier to just kind of put all the tiles right there on top of it. But he's just spreading it all across on a really thin layer, and then just using the spacers and putting the tiles, all of that, making sure that it is all perfectly even. It's actually really, really addicting to watch. I don't even know why. So you can see Brad is doing that across the top, and then our friend Brandon is with a pencil drawing on the tile to make sure he's cutting it out correctly, just right there around the outlet. So the pencil helps a lot, and Brad and Brandon both said that the wet saw was actually pretty awesome and worked really well. Okay, so the tile is all in. Took them about 3.5 hours, and then tomorrow morning we are going to grout. But I wanted to show you guys up close what it looks like up here. They kind of did some smaller pieces, and then over here in this corner was kind of tricky, but they got one of these pieces again, and we weren't sure if this was going to fit, but then they just did the halves and then the holes to kind of make it look like this is a continuous tile. So kind of the tricky stuff. Our friend was telling us when you have the outlets out like this to tape it off, because they don't get electrocuted when you're grouting. So just a good little tip from a professional contractor. So tomorrow morning we will do the grout. This is the next morning, so you can kind of get an idea of what the color looks like. Brad is currently taking out all the spacers. So the next step that we're going to do is seal the stone, and then we're going to do the grout. Next step is sealing it. So you take this grout and tile sealer, and Brad just sprayed it on the towel here, and he is just wiping it onto all of the tiles.
Prevents the grout from transferring color onto your stone or tile.
So it keeps the stone or tile safe from the grout. Now that it is all sealed, it says that it takes 2 to 3 hours to dry. Next step is making this non-sounded grout. We just got a white one, and you just fill up this little container with some water. Okay, so this red thing right here is called the floata.
Float.
Oh. Float.
Floater
So Brad is just
left in the toilet earlier.
So this is all he's doing. He's just applying a thin layer so it will go inside of the crevices. And okay, so the important thing when you're applying this, our friend told us, is to apply at a 45-degree angle and then wipe it off at a 90-degree angle like that. Boom. That's all you gotta do. And just do that the whole way. And then you let it sit for about 30 minutes, and then you wipe all of this grout off. And you can also tape off this too if you don't want it to get on the cabinets, but Brad's just like wiping it off if it gets on there. Okay, so Brad actually mixed it a little thinner, and it was easier to put in, so that's also a helpful little tip. And then he was concentrating on smaller areas at once as well, so that helps it fill in a little bit better. As you can see over here, just, there you go, see? After the grout has been able to sit for a while, Brad took a wet sponge and just wiped it all off. Okay, so now Brad has put all the outlets back on, and we're going to be using some cheesecloth to wipe it all down. He also took all the covering off, so we're going to wipe it off like this apparently. And what is the cheesecloth supposed to do? It takes off the haze. Brad is now putting on the caulk. So this is how it's looking so far. It looks really, really good. Now Brad's just doing all the finishing touches. Okay, so this part is all done as well. You can see it's coming together. All of this right here too, so. After 3 days, you have to seal the tile one more time, but this is what it looks like complete. This is what it looks like in daylight, and we fell in love with this Carrera marble. Our contractor friend Brandon said it was such a beautiful Carrera marble, and it was such a great deal. So if you guys want to check it out, go find that at Home Depot. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you guys did, give this video a thumbs up, and we will see you guys in my next video. See you later.